Jim is.
Everything that said backstage, you can't say on the air. What's going on, lads?
Welcome to my show. Why am I in the upper corner?
Hey,
I think that was aimed at me. Everything you say backstage, you can't say in the air, Jim.
No, that's right. There we go. Now I'm in prime position. We're talking about antennas today, boys. Antennas for the Perfect Ham Shack Part 3. And for Part 3, we've invited Big Jim in to give us his wise words of wisdom.
Okay.
And then we're just going to dip out and let him run the show for a while.
Yeah.
And if it goes sideways, it's his fault.
I will talk some smack about you two. Oh, really? Really? You actually did that? You wankers. Both of you.
It wasn't me. It was my idea, but it wasn't me.
Jim's been learning some Aussie words, I see, during the week as well.
I'm trying to learn all sorts of cool slang.
Pete's talking about a 0.64. Oh, we can. Do you boys know what a 0.64 is?
I have no idea.
Another way of saying a 5/8 wave. 5/8 wave antenna.
0.64.
Okay.
0.64 of a wavelength. 0.62, 0.64. Yeah, semantics, but
0.625 would be 5/8.
0.625, yes. Yep.
Yeah, but he's talking imperial measurements.
Yeah. There is a poll in the chat. Which one? Is it antenna, aerial, or antennae? Everyone gets tripped up on that one. So for the beginners who join this stream later on,
are we asking about multiples there, Hayden, or just one antenna?
No, only one. Is it Oh, see, that's the thing. Don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, the context matters, right?
Do you say antennas, aerials, or antennae?
I say antenna.
Antenna. AUNTENNA.
45's got it. Well, so's antennas and aerial, right? Aerials.
Yeah.
Aerials sounds
Your
weird.
Antenna.
Aerial sounds, like something you shouldn't say on YouTube, probably.
So the Perfect Ham Shack, we did part 1 the first week, which was power supplies and power distribution. We're trying to help T.O. build out his Perfect Ham Radio Shack here. Part 2 last week was radios, which was very controversial. Some of the comments were rolling in, saying, how dare you say that about the IC 7300? How dare you say that about the 991? And we were like... Dinosaur
radios.
We will defend our radio.
We didn't say they were bad radios. We were just saying...
Actually, we said they were good.
They're old.
They were just outdated.
Yeah, they're good. It's just they're old.
They're going on like 10 years old.
I mean, whatever radio you have that brings you joy is the perfect radio.
I love them all.
Whether it's an 891 with its crappy menu system, or it's a 7300, or it's an out-of-date 991, which actually is a beautiful radio other than that old screen from that thing that's showing its age.
I can draw a waterfall faster than the 991A.
Right? I know, right? I can math it out and draw it, right?
Or not the A, the other one where you have to press the sweep button every few seconds to see what's going on.
I mean, if I forget to take my meds, I can draw a waterfall probably as fast as the 7300 does. But, or this beauty back here is the perfect radio too. So
there he is, flexing again.
Or a knob
flexing again.
That's right.
A VFO or anything.
All software.
Just a box.
That's right. It's all
Why is it
FM
so big
inside.
if it's all software?
It's FM. It's all freaking magic inside.
So speaking of beautiful radios, someone mentioned to me that they got one of these the other day, which is I looked at and I was like, oh yeah, that's old school icon.
I want it. I like it.
Yep.
I want it.
Can you? Yeah. What plus that up?
Wait,
son.
wait. Hold on. Before I say I want it, is it still for sale, brand new today? Can I go to HRO and buy this?
No.
Okay, then I want it.
Used.
That looks official. Very official.
Well, what's the sexiest thing about this is the analog meter. How good are analog meters? Bring them back. I say. Put a little. So you've got your digital screen, like with all of your normal stuff, your waterfall, and then you could have a little section off to the side, which is an analog meter like that. How good would that be?
Well, your 7610 has that, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's a digital analog meter.
It's a digital analog meter.
It's a
that's
fake.
Right.
It's a fake.
It's faux analog.
Yeah, but that was cool. I thought, but again, great radio. But would you get one today? there's other options out there that are probably more cost effective, right?
So my thought about buying an old radio, when I got into amateur radio, I was like, I'm not spending $1,000 on a radio, right? I didn't want to drop that much money on a brand new radio because I didn't know if I was going to stay in amateur radio or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then I started looking at used radios, and I spent a lot of time shopping well before I even took the test. And I came to the conclusion, well, I could spend $900 on a 25-year-old radio, or I could spend $100 more on a brand new one with a warranty. So, I mean, that has to have some bearing in the decision. Now, that being said, I'm like T.O. I love old radios. I buy T.O.'s old radios. You know, that we had we share a child together. We have a Kenwood. We had the Kenwood 570. I loved it. It was a great radio. It was really cool. I've got a DX 1200. Great radio, really cool. But yeah, like you're saying, they're all a bit out of date and showing their age.
Taylor's got you there.
Well, no. That was when I started. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this joint or not, right?
Hey,
so
we're going to get to antennas, but while we're talking about radios, Pete has said they do hold value. So even if you buy a brand new radio, you're not going to. It's not going to depreciate a lot. You'll probably be able to sell it for even more than it's worth in 6 months' time.
I think so. If you look on QRZ, that's absolutely true. I mean, go find a functional tube radio, brand new prices.
So here's the thing about old radios that I actually enjoy about this hobby. An old radio still gets you on the air and still allows you to make contacts, and you still have just as much fun exploring, experimenting, playing with, modifying, connecting, all the things to an old radio as you do to a new radio. Hayden's trying to move us along.
I think we've digressed.
It's only for those. It's only for those that click on this video later on and they're like, "These blokes are still talking about radios."
This is a community show, folks.
I thought this was Ham Radio Clubhouse for a minute. I was confused.
No. We're talking about radios.
Oh, that's true. Good point.
Big John's Ham Shack, the way they hold value is frustrating.
Indeed,
it can be. It can be, yes.
There are people that won't sell the radio for what it's worth used, like our friend Shane.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
bless his heart. I mean, I like Shane. He's a cool guy, but I was like, that is a suboptimal decision, son. But okay.
And you took it anyway. Smart man.
I did. I mean, I'm a Republican, son. I'm going to take advantage of him.
More.
I know you did. You told me you told him before I paid for it.
That was my first radio. My first HF radio.
Look at that
cost
control.
me. You know where I bought that? I bought that off of eBay, and it cost me $500. Now, I would not recommend buying used radios off eBay unless the seller is reputable, and there's ways that you can check that. But I bought this radio for $500. I still know where it is. I sold it to someone, and I know who's got it and where it is. So it's being looked after, not turned on, not operating. But
looked
I know
after.
where it is. Looked after. But this was the first radio, and I paid $500. But that was in 2004. So I could, 2004? How old's this radio? 1983.
Years. Oh, my gosh. Okay.
The 80s. So this radio was older than me when I bought it.
Right.
So I could have paid. I was only young. I didn't have a lot of money, but I could have bought something for. I didn't have $1,000 to spend on a new radio.
It's older than me now. I hold value.
You do. I don't know where to go with that. There's so many jokes that cannot be said. It is analog meter hour. So okay, so we've completely fixed the radio debacle. Okay, everyone's sorted on the radio. Which radio to buy now? I'm pretty sure that everyone knows which one to get.
Right.
So we can move on to antennas.
Right.
Now comes the simple bit. What antenna do you get?
Oh, easy. Any one of the Coffee and Ham Radio's antennas.
First antenna, go buy an Apollo because it doesn't require a tuner. It's a moderately easy build, and you'll get on the air.
You boys have updated your website.
Yes, we did.
We'll have a look at that first, but we'll have a look at that shortly. Sorry. What though would be your ideal antenna? What if you had unlimited money? Well, actually, that's not a good question.
Son.
No, sorry, that's not a good question. If you had a little bit of money to spend on an antenna that was decent, what would you go for?
What's a little bit of money?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I mean, knowing what I know now, the difference between. So I bought.
the difference between like a wire antenna and a Yagi antenna, like it's going to be night and day, right? But then do you get a monoband Yagi? Do you get something like a stepper so that you can have multiple bands and adjust it in and out? Like how far do you go? I guess it depends on how big your budget is.
Well, I think the antenna question for me was I was trying not to throw a ton of cash at it. And I got my license in September of 19, so I'm going on 5 years licensed. But, I bought a lot of snake oil because I was like, I didn't want to spend the money. Oh, this one's only $350. That other one is $500. I'm not buying that. And I bought several $300+ antennas that all were kind of disappointing, So, I mean, with hindsight, I can tell you that the DX Commander is excellent bang for the buck for a multi-band antenna that doesn't really require a tuner. Not specifically ease of deployment, but, then there's this guy in Australia. I watched a couple of videos of his, and he made it look really easy.
Mad Dog Coils?
No, the clown
They're
above
portable.
you.
Oh.
That guy.
Well,
But,
that's
I run
it's
a great antenna.
I run the Classic at home, and it just works because I've got not a lot of space in the backyard, so I can fold it over when it's windy. I can take it down when I need to. It doesn't take, you don't need a lot of space for the radials. It's well made.
Yep.
And it's been up for, probably 3 years, maybe a little bit longer than 3 years now.
More than that.
Yeah, it's probably 4 years now. And look at that.
Look, that's mine.
Well, yours has been in the snow like that, hasn't it?
It has, yeah.
T.O., that looks awful short.
So
it was cold.
It was cold. That's why.
yeah. And look, that's the kind of whipness you can get on it without it being.
Can I get a witness?
Yeah.
I mean, an antenna thing. T.O. says this all the time, and while I hate to get his head any bigger than it is, it just depends on your mission. First of all, what do you plan to do with the antenna you're going to buy? Is it a home antenna that you're going to put up and not want to fool with? And that changes the equation. If you plan on doing portable operations all the time, then I would not recommend a DX Commander for that.
Yeah.
I also wouldn't recommend a 7300, a 7610, or a Flex if you're going to do portable all the time. So it kind of depends on the mission and the budget.
Quickly on portable all the time, though, is that Callum has come out with the Rapide self-supporting, which means you can just bang in a post in the ground and then slot it straight over the top, which does make it pretty quick and pretty easy. But the fact that, going back to the Classic gives you all bands. This is the antenna if someone says, hey, I want to get an antenna for every single band, I don't have a lot of space, what do I do? I say, get a DX Commander and put it together.
Agreed.
You learn something because you build it, you put it together, and it's fun. And then if you want to do stuff like portable, then there's other options. Like you mentioned, the Mad Dog Coil, which we can we'll show in a sec.
I've looked
Mad
at
Dog
that
Coil.
one out. That looks cool.
Let's show that first, and then we'll go and show the car tenors as well, because they're good. They're portable based.
Aaron's asking, would you use the Buddy Hex as a full-time setup? I don't know how it would stand up in the wind.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's... Yeah.
So the Buddy Hex, I've got one, and setting it up, it's not... I think if you had a different mast system, so you didn't have the mast that goes up and down. What's it called? Mastworks. If you don't have that and you had it set up permanently, then maybe like on top of a tower with a rotator, maybe. It's not really built though for permanent installation. It's more for portable. It's too, how do you say it? It's built well, but it's not built sturdy. Is that a good way of saying it?
It has that was what I was going to say. What's the wind load on the thing?
Yeah.
That's a lot of surface area to catch the breeze in, right? So,
yeah. And some of the poles that he uses, they're not probably super strong.
Right.
So these are some of Marty's coils which you can get. You can order these overseas as well. He will ship these all over the world. And this will, I've done a video on it. You can check out his website. And these are basically basic coils. And he's got lots of different products coming out now for them.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he's got like, you can put 2 coils off these formers here and all sorts to do like a dipole or something. It's all sorts of stuff.
He's really upgraded that website. I looked at him probably 3 or 4 or 5 months ago, and there wasn't that much there.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yep. So this is good because you can set these up on a tripod. I don't have any photos easily accessible here, but you can. Oh, there's a sort of a photo in the thumbnail, but you can check out his YouTube channel and the website. There it is. You can set it up on a tripod or on the beach, and away you go. And lots of people here use these, and they work very well. And then we get to the big boys.
Have you played with the Mad Dog stuff at all, Hayden?
Yeah. I've got a couple of them, and I did a video. Yeah, I did a video of them. I just used counterpoise wires as well out from the coil. But some people have been starting to use those. What are they? The Faraday cloth, the ground mats as well.
Window screen,
the magic carpet.
Yeah, yep, and they've been working well too. And these are like super quick to set up. It probably takes you 2 minutes to get this up and running. So, and then we get to these ones. Again, kit build.
Yep.
All for different functions.
Yeah. And the cool part about these is that you can customize them. So you can take the base that we've given you and then modify it and make improvements. And a lot of people have made improvements on it, which is really awesome to see.
Now these are wire antennas. So you've got an end-fed, you've got a linked dipole. So
random
you
wire.
join the links in. Sorry, I wasn't pointing when I was saying them.
Okay. I apologize.
Yeah, sorry. End-fed, random wire, linked dipole, and then vertical.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just talking. Didn't realize what I was floating over.
I should probably put that on those pictures too, but
as in the description of what they are.
Yeah. Yeah, if you click in they say it, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it depends on what your setup's going to be, isn't it? So for instance, you might not have as much room for a linked dipole or a end-fed, but you'll have plenty, or a random wire, but you have plenty of room for a vertical. So you've got the vertical version. So
the bonus with those, with something like that, and whether it's ours, which we'd appreciate, or somebody else's, with a proper end-fed, there's no tuner required, right? None, 0 tuner. The Aries is the random wire. You're going to need a tuner for that. The Mercury is the linked dipole, and you can build that for any of the bands you want. And if you build it correctly, you don't need a tuner for those bands. So there's compromises with all those. Now, we've been selling the Poseidon a lot lately. And Ape has gone, and Steve will verify this, Ape has just lost his mind over the Poseidon. He's actually been on FT8 so much. Some of you may have actually had a FT8 contact with the Primate. and for challenged space areas and for portable, my vote would be for a Poseidon. You need a tuner. That's the caveat to it. But setup on this thing is, the kit build is easy, even wrapping the toroid. Mine did not look like a monkey did it. Setup on it is, I don't know, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and that's probably getting the pole out of your trunk of your car. And takedown is just as fast. It uses 4 radials, and you're off to the races. And worldwide contacts with this thing from here, from the Primate's house in Nebraska, It works great. And it's beauty for portable operations. And this goes back to what I was saying about mission. So I've been using it at QTH. It is literally fastened to a fiberglass mast leaning in a tree. It's not fastened to nothing. It's just leaning between some tree limbs so that it doesn't fall over.
Just picture as lazily as you could install it.
Yes, that would be, yes, that's how I roll. Work smarter, not harder. So, and it works great. I mean, it's a fabulous antenna. And we're working on a full power version now. I'm sorry, Hayden?
But so your vertical needs a tuner, but then you've also got your resonant antennas, which are your NFED and your
the link dipole,
and
the Mercury,
which don't require a tuner. Yep.
Right. Yep.
To the do, to the don't.
And you know, for a beginner, for a first antenna, right, Paul? I don't know. Right. We have some sketchy people on the show.
Right.
You know.
Like Paul.
I wasn't going to say his name, but I mean, you know.
Auto tuner will work too, Jeff. Manual or auto.
Jeff is
He's
tweaking
trolling.
me. He's trolling.
So it depends on which antenna you get. If you get the Aries, it requires an external tuner. The Poseidon was specifically designed to work with your radio's built-in 3-to-1 internal antenna tuner.
Yeah, I didn't mention that, but Steve's exactly correct.
So there was a couple of other comments there that were talking about some antennas here in Australia, and there's a couple. They're kind of a little bit. They're more niche for the higher bands, higher HF bands. So they're talking about these. These are grazy antennas, which are basically they're not. These are also known as a station master, but there's 27 meg antennas. They're basically an NFED with a tapped coil. There's a quarter wave version of it. There's one for 10 meters. There's one for 6 meters. There's one for 15 meters. So there's those antennas as well.
Yeah, now you can't beat band specific, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's even going to be more on focus. That what's your mission, right? If you're going to work portable 10 meters, or you only ever want to work 10 meters or 27 megahertz, buy an antenna specifically for it.
So they're kind of, we just went through real quick. Those antennas are ones that you can buy, right? And we've focused a lot in on beginners, but what about building your own? So Craig said earlier, get a VNA and build your own gear. And you could build a dipole, or if you want multiple bands, like Michael said, put multiple dipoles in parallel with a common feed line.
Yep.
So you can do a fan dipole and put that together as well and build your own.
Which is effectively a DX commander.
Yeah, DX commanders are quarter waves, so they're not dipoles. But if you turn the DX commander on its side and stick another leg out the same length as it, then you do have a dipole horizontal. Yep. But again, you need room for those kind of things. An 80-meter dipole is 40 meters long. What's that? Over 100 feet?
130, 140 feet. Yeah.
So you need a fair bit of room. Yeah, if you want to learn, build your own. So there's many different ways to skin the cat, as they say.
Right. And again, it depends. You know, I having built the Poseidon, I can say it's an easy build, and it was not complicated. It was fun, and I've built 3 versions of it now. So there's that, and then there's the I want to get on the air, so buy an antenna and get it installed as fast as you can too.
So Paul's asking the power handling, and there is the official power handling, and then there's the unofficial power handling. The official is 100 watts sideband, 50 watts digital, but we have been pushing the snot out of it, and it's been working great. We're actually, like Jim said, we're coming up with a bigger one here pretty soon.
Yep.
To get it to take, Tim, you've been running like 200 to 300 watts through yours.
Unofficially, I've been pushing 300 plus watts through the Poseidon. The only caveat that we saw, and Ape discovered this, is if you run it on 80 meters, you need to mind the power, because Ape kind of smoked his. 80 meters.
His isn't minty green anymore.
Yeah, it's not minty green, it's burnt toast. So, but yeah, unofficially, I mean, I've ran probably about 300 through it. And I mean, I'm not talking like I did it once and said, hey, it still works. No, I did it for 2 or 3 hours and went out and took thermal image pictures with the thermal imager camera. Because Abe was like, oh, you had to have smoked it. No, son, it's fine. But
Thank you, Chris, for becoming a YouTube member.
That's right. Solo us, baby. Got to share these moves. Woo! Old man can bust it out.
Very good. Thank you, Chris, for becoming a member. Sorry, you were saying,
And
wise one?
We're working on the full power version of the Poseidon now called the Kronos. We've done a lot of prototyping, changing out toroids and everything else. I actually have the Kronos prototype up now, and it's had 500 watts through it and still works quite well. And the toroid did not melt.
So Paul says 150 is sufficient.
Well, yeah, and it probably is, because unless you're doing, I mean, it's not really designed as a QTH antenna. It's designed for portable. Yeah. And who's going to, other than some crazy people in Texas that we all know, Mike, you know, who's going to run an amp? Yeah, I mean, I agree. Everyone needs an amp, but, you know, you got to be dedicated to schlep an amp to a park and run it. So, yeah, 150, 100 is probably fine.
Andy, member for... Whoops, that was the wrong one.
Here's to you, Andy.
37 months. Thank you, Andy.
I can't drink and dance at the same time. Oh, God, make it stop. I'm going to bust a hip.
He busted something.
He did bust something. John.
Woo.
John's
Do
becoming
not
a new
go
YouTube
in
member
there.
too. Thank you very much. Jim, you got to lay off that Dr. Pepper. We nearly made him spit up his Dr. Pepper.
It almost came out the snooze. Yeah.
So Steve's asking, what's the indication that you run too much RF through it? On an end-fed half wave, you will notice that your SWR starts to climb up. Like when you built it, It was a perfect dead-on one-to-one SWR because you're the most awesome builder on the planet. And then as you start using it beyond its rated power, the SWR starts to go bad. Let off of it for a little bit, let the core cool down, it'll be fine. For the Poseidon, I don't remember what happened afterwards, but like literally the green paint turned brown and cracked and melted off of it. But I don't know that it stopped working.
It's not broken. It's just he melted paint on it. And we figured that was when it hit 80 meters is what he did.
I built an end-fed half wave and had that problem. I mounted it in a box outside, so there was no passive cooling of it. Jammed 100 watts of FT8 through it. Didn't think much of it. Never thought anything of it. Didn't notice anything on SWR or anything. And then later on, I opened up the box when I pulled it all down, and there was arc marks inside the inside, and there was burn marks on the inside of the box. So that's also another telling thing that you're probably running too much power through it.
And the saturation temperature is what you're looking at. So, and I don't remember exact numbers. I'm sure one of the chat people will correct me here, but generally in the 130 to 150 C is saturation temperature for something like the toroids we're using in any of these. It's in that neighborhood for a single toroid. So
just to let you know, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Rice, Mr. Rice. But yeah, so I mean, as long as you keep it under the saturation temperature, and like I said, we were testing. So I'm out there, I'm walking outside with a thermal imager over and over. I'd run it a couple 100 watts or, you know, banging out FT8 to Japan or something, and I go out there and take a temperature on it. And
you take a temperature.
And like Steve said, even if it hits that temperature and your SWR goes stupid, let off of it, go get a cold beverage, get a snack, come back, it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Yeah. So as we say down here, it'll be all right.
I just want to circle back to a question that we got before all of those super chats and members came in. Satan's Pooper, who's got the best YouTube name going around
ever.
What about ever? What about antennas for working satellites? Someone mentioned in the chat the Arrow antenna, which is a great portable antenna. T.O. did a video recently with Eric, Hamstick Eric, on working Green Cube using an Arrow antenna. I've got the portable arrow antenna, which is very, very lightweight for the FM birds. So they've got like they're 2 meters and 70 centimeters. They've got 2 meter elements on one side and then 70 centimeters on the other. So you kind of have to twist them depending on, what polarization you want. If it's base station though, and you want to sort of set up for satellites permanently, then you want something like a azimuth elevation rotator, which is going to be able to track where the satellite is, and you'll probably want a cross-polarized yagi to make up for any cross-polarization losses which you'll get.
Now, what is the other one? The elk. That's the other one.
Yeah, the Lindenblad. That's another antenna, which is a mess of dipoles, all at 45 degrees. Turnstile antenna is another one.
Antennas are fun. So the yagi has different dimensions between the elements, and the elk is a long periodic antenna. And so if you hold them up next to each other, the spacing will be different, but they do essentially the same thing. They direct signals onto your antenna, and then the last one reflects signals back to your antenna.
That's the one that Rob runs, right? He runs an elk antenna.
Yes,
I think that's correct. Yeah,
runs an elk. Yep.
And he's a satellite. He's a satellite nerd. He's big time in satellites.
Their website, they need to blow up some of the photos. But
welcome to GeoCities 1998. I swear.
QSL.net. Anyway.
Can't embiggen that any, can you? Oh, look, it's 1998. I take it back, not 1999.
They're trying to conserve bandwidth.
Hold on. It's on a modem.
Oh, there we go. 250% zoom. We'll get it. Maybe I'll go a bit closer. That's high quality.
And then it turns mobile. Nice.
That's the maximum zoom.
So he's got a mobile friendly design, responsive design, and not big antenna pictures. Nice.
I zoomed in so much that it thought I was on a mobile. Does that do it on the main page? It does.
Yep.
And you can get embroidery done there too.
Nice.
Oh dear. Anyway, they're good antennas. Probably not so much the website.
Now, another one for satellites, and this is really, you're getting into a mission-specific thing, but you talked about, somebody asked in the chat, I think it was Cooley, what about the egg beater? That is really good satellite antenna. It's a compromise because it's not got, like Hayden was talking about, the azimuth and elevation change on it. You can get even more compromised than use a disc cone to work satellites, but an egg beater will absolutely work, and usually there's two, and they're on a bar together. So there's the VHF side and the UHF side. And Sean Kutzko, KX9X, helped Ward Silver put up an egg beater setup at his house. And Sean recommends it. Now, it's not directional. You can't aim it. It is what it is. I think you can rotate it, but there's no elevation change on it. M Squared, I think, makes some really popular egg beaters.
Not the easiest antenna to design yourself and build yourself. You could do it, but
a lot of math in there, buddy.
There's
one. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Which is a bit easier. So, but you want something that has high elevation. Even a quarter wave ground plane will work. A quarter wave will work, relatively well. But something like an egg beater, an elk, or an arrow antenna yagi or something like that will work a lot better due to the high radiation angle.
Satan's Pooper, you can use a disc cone for satellites. I have done that. I can't believe I just said Satan's Pooper on YouTube.
Right. I can't believe you just said disc cone.
Legitimately in a sentence. Well, I have a disc cone that I've had for 25 years for scanners, and it works for satellites. Now, the thing is about the radiation pattern, I've gotten into a bird.
Well for satellites, yeah.
It depends on the pass. and it has to be the right elevation of the satellite pass, or you're not going to hear anything at all. So
yes,
it will work. It's just not recommended.
Slappo-Matt, here's another good YouTube name. He makes a good point. Why don't hams use more circular polarized antennas? And I mean, in satellites, they're pretty popular. But one thing which is interesting as far as 2 meters and 70 centimeter repeaters is, and I've had this thought about circular polarized antennas will be better than a linear polarized antenna, vertical or horizontal, purely because you reduce the amount of fade margin that you have when you're listening to mobile stations. So if you're driving around and your polarization is shifting as you're going up and down hills and through trees and around mountains and stuff, you lose 20 dB between your vertical, which is sitting on your repeater, and your car, which might be going at 45 degrees up a hill or, down in a valley or something like that. With circular polarized antenna, you only lose 3 dB. So you can reduce that mismatch. So that's why it's used in satellites a lot, because your trade-off is 20 dB for 3 dB. Michael says you do pick up 3 dB noise pickup, but it's interesting, funny that you should mention that, because one of the videos that I've got planned to come out in the next few days is, does 3 dB really make a difference? And that's going to be a discussion on, does 3 dB more power make a difference? Does 3 dB more noise make a difference? Does 3 dB... all about the magic 3 dB. So should be an interesting one.
Can you hear 3 dB, the difference? That'll be cool.
Sometimes, but not always.
Yeah. It's not a guarantee.
There's only really one situation where 3 dB is an advantage, and that's when you can't hear the station at all. The difference between an extra 3 dB,
right,
getting them out of the noise, can sometimes mean the difference. But if they're already 5x5 or 5x9, you're not going to notice it. It's like less than an S point. You won't even notice it. But I'm starting to give away some of my secrets in the video, Jim. So
that's okay. People who watch live streams don't watch static videos.
No, that's right. True. Cloverleaf, that's another one. So yeah, satellite antennas.
I've never seen a cloverleaf.
Cloverleaf. They're on RC. What do you call them? The radio control.
Yeah. Okay.
Controls.
Well, I thought those were helical.
Here's a couple of examples. There we go.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got you.
5.8 gigs. They kind of look like that, yeah. Cloverleaf. All sorts of math there. Let's not look at that.
Who's got time for math?
Yeah.
Nobody got time for that.
Okay, so the dream. Now the dream is a 150-foot tower with a 6-element yagi on it that has trapped
4x4 brother.
Yeah.
Yep. And or a stepper IR antenna. And then you can, because there's so many people that work DX with those steppers. It's ridiculous. I mean, if you got the coin, then go for it.
And the land, yeah.
Yeah.
Not going to put up an antenna like that in my backyard.
Satan's pooper again. Does a metal mask make a difference with a vertical?
Yep.
It interacts with it, yeah.
What vertical, though, are we talking about? Are we talking about a 2 and 70 centimeter vertical on top of a metal mask?
Mounted on top of the mast? No, it doesn't matter.
No. Or you mean, yeah. Or do you mean running a wire up the side of a metal mast? Then definitely. Might need a little bit more info.
We have to mention carbon fiber in there, too, so the ape doesn't come yell at us.
This
as in
isn't
which
coffee
one
ham
not to
radios. We're
use.
okay.
He's probably asleep by now.
As in some,
we can actually say that we like carbon fiber on this show.
Right.
But you do.
I mean, we
do
don't.
have to be.
But
Yeah, you have to be careful of some plastics though, because some plastics are going to absorb RF rather than let it through. So if you mount your wire inside, say, what we call a radome, inside a bit of plastic tube or something, it might not radiate out very well because it'll be absorbed in the plastic, because some plastic has carbon in it. That's why we've got, I don't know about over there, but we've got these black Jiffy boxes, what we call Jiffy boxes, and there's some things you can't put in them, like don't use them for a dipole, to run a dipole into, because they've got carbon all in them, so they'll detune your antenna and mess things up.
PVC should be okay, right? It wouldn't have any.
It affects the velocity factor, so your antenna length is a bit different. But other than that, it's fine.
So the way to test it is to cut off a small section of the PVC, put it in your microwave with a glass of water, put it in for about 30 seconds to a minute, take it out, and be very careful with it. See if it's warm, and if it's warm, then you know that the plastic absorbs RF. If it's not warm and it's cold, and obviously the water's going to be warm, but if it's not hot, then you know that the plastic you used is good. That's the easiest way to test.
That's awesome.
Or at least I was taught.
Very simple way to do it. I wouldn't do it when your wife is anywhere near the microwave, so she can judge you while you're doing that. But
depends on if you make dinner or not. Although if you're using the microwave to make dinner, you probably need to branch out a little bit.
Go to McDonald's at least.
Craig has a good point. A metal mask can become a reflector with verticals, which can be a good thing. I know that that's one thing that Callum did experiment with. He experimented with a couple of his verticals and used one as like a reflector as well, which can be pretty cool if you're trying to only really work in one direction. So yes. Oh, all right. That's one thing we haven't covered. NVIS.
Nevis.
NVIS.
Nevis.
What's NVIS? What's NVIS for?
What's NVIS for?
Near vertical incident skywave.
Right.
What's the simple term? When your signal goes straight up in the air.
Right. So half your signal bounces off the ground and goes straight back up. The other half goes straight up anyway. So you get to work local contacts, more local contacts.
More local, yeah, localish.
Yeah, relatively short, yep.
But so when you say more local, I've worked half the country, half the United States on a Nevis antenna. So from Tennessee, I get out to Wisconsin, Minnesota.
But those could be chordal hops too, on your NVIS antenna.
Could be all kinds of fun antenna type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, my point, your point is, it doesn't just make you local, but it lets you get some local stuff. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you're not trying to work your neighbor, but you might, and you're also not trying to work the other side of the country, but you might.
Yeah, like Joe Brett is. Joe Brett is about 250, 300 miles from me, which is way too close for anything except possibly 80 meters without an NVIS setup.
So a NVIS antenna can be something as simple as just a dipole mounted pretty low to the ground, or an NFED pretty low to the ground, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And actually, most antennas are Nevis antennas, and people just don't know it.
Right.
Also known as the cloud warmer. That's right, Vic.
Right.
Colin's talking about binary dipole arrays. Binary dipole arrays are pretty, well, they're fascinating to me, but I don't know if they're fascinating to people in general. So while you guys are...
All antennas are fascinating. Let's just start there.
Oh, yeah. So a binary dipole array is basically one of these. It's basically, funny enough, an array of dipoles.
Oh, wow.
They're folded dipoles. And this basically gives you omnidirectional coverage with gain in 360, complete 360 omnidirectional coverage. So they stack.
Go ahead.
Sorry?
No, go ahead. I got a question about how this thing works.
So they have either one or sometimes two phasing lines. Usually they just have one. They have all the phasing done up in the antenna up in here. So they phase one set of dipoles facing one direction and the other set of dipoles facing the other direction, and then they phase them together in here, or they run separate feed lines out, and then they can be phased and changed inside the shack or inside the shed, wherever it's running to.
So the difference between that and a straight 2-meter vertical is you're getting some gain with that.
Mm-hmm.
What else is different?
So, well, this one's for you for 70 centimeters, but the same principle applies for 2 meters, just bigger.
Yeah, I said 2 meters, whichever. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of these folded dipoles is effectively a half-wave dipole. It's just folded, so it's higher impedance and wider bandwidth. So one of these would be equivalent to if you put, say, your 2 meter vertical on top of the mast, then yeah, you're going to get 360, but you're not going to get the gain. So this offers that extra gain in those directions. The other thing that you can do with this too is you can phase one set of dipoles. So say this top set, and then you've got this bottom and top set here. You can put what they call a delay line in. So the RF arrives at one set of dipoles slightly not longer, slightly slower than the other, and then you can electrically tilt the beam width, not the beam width, the beam, the
That's
pattern.
what Starlink does.
The pattern.
So what you can do is, so what you could do is so if this is on top of a really high mountain and all of your users are down in the valley, you can electrically tilt it without actually physically having to tilt it. Because if you physically tilt it, then half of your RF is going to go into the sky, right? So, they're pretty interesting antennas, but very, very expensive. Yes, 45, yes. But they are the bee's knees for repeater antennas.
I'm going to have to look at those. So repeaters are what those are used for mostly, huh?
Binary dipole array, yeah.
Or anybody that wants to have serious signal.
Right.
You could build something similar for HF, but you need a lot of room and a lot of land.
Right. The 80-meter folded dipole would still be fairly large.
Mm. We haven't even spoken about, Vic speaks about here delta loops. So you've got quads, you've got delta loops, you've got just normal loops. And the advantage of loops is the low noise factor, right? I had a 80-meter full wavelength loop at one point, and it was brilliant. It was an awesome receive antenna because you picked up no noise at all. It was great. It was a crap transmit antenna though. So I had an antenna switch. I had to switch between my dipole, my horizontal dipole, and the loop. Jin's off looking up binary dipoles right now. I think he's looking at buying one.
He's buying one on
make
stream.
a purchase.
No, I'm not. Shut up.
I don't know who makes them over there. I'm sure that TXRX Systems or someone does, or
I've seen them around here, yeah.
Telewave or someone, yeah. All this talk about HF. Best 2 meter, 70 centimeter combo antenna. I was going to say something different. I'm going to say one of these. Let me just bring it up. The Diamond base station antennas. This is one of them here. This is the X50. So they start at X30, but they go up in model number, and the higher the model number, generally, the longer the antenna, the more gain. So you got an X30 and X50. You've got one with an N connector, X50N, X200. That's a good. The X200 is probably the antenna that I'd recommend you get. These ones are pretty short. They're only 4.5 feet. 4.5 feet, 5.6 feet. This one's a little bit longer. I can't remember how many feet. Maybe close to 10. 8 feet. There we go. So these, there are so many of these antennas around down here. It's unbelievable, and they just work. They stay up for years. Little maintenance, a little bit of maintenance, but not a lot. So yeah, for a base station antenna, they're good. I use the V2000. I don't think you can get the V2000 on Amazon, but you can get it at other places. Oh no, you can get it at Amazon. There's the V2000. That does 6 meters with a tuned element as well. And if you want to support the channel, there is a link to Amazon or eBay, which is an affiliate link in the chat, so you can grab some stuff there. But yeah, these are the base station antennas I'd recommend.
Hayden, I shared
apart from a brie.
I shared out to you the binary dipole.
Oh yeah,
found one with the price. Wow.
Yeah, that's US too.
Wow.
Hang on a minute. That's not a binary dipole. That is a what's the other one?
When I say those are all on the same side, so I guess that's what.
That's an elliptical array. Is it elliptical? Have I got that right?
They're calling it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's an elliptical array. Because it's not. No, it's not an elliptical array. That's both sides. I've had a mental blank.
Well, still.
Anyway, similar principle, but only one direction.
Yeah. For $1,500.
It's a non-binary array.
So someone will be able to come. Someone will be able to come
gender
up with
neutral.
Offset array. That's it. Offset array.
Okay.
But yes, expensive, but same principle.
Wow.
A lot of people, Diamond X50 for the win. Diamond X50 is perfect. Diamond X200. Andy said, I think a 510. That's the super long one. Do you guys run these antennas, these diamonds?
Yeah, I've got some.
That's what's on my truck.
VA3 HDO. I heard that they attract lightning. They are DC grounded antennas as well, which means that if you put a multimeter on the center pin and on the ground of the or the shield of the coax connector, you will get continuity. So they are good for bleeding off static and bleeding off lightning. I mean, they won't protect you from a direct hit, but
strike.
Yeah. Mike, speaking of antennas, just got shipping notification for my those ones from the UK, 7-element 6-meter yagi. Have you guys seen those?
I have not.
Nope.
So I built one of these because he gives you the dimensions on his website, but you can buy them. Oh yeah, this will do. These are called LFA yagis.
That's just hard to say.
They use a loop for the feed, which is supposed to be low noise. And it's also a 50 ohm match. When I built my antenna, it come out really good, and it's probably the best 6-meter antenna I've ever built. But you can buy them as well. There's a guy he's in the UK, in Innov Antennas. So he sells those ones, which they're pretty good. We got a super chat somewhere. I'm just trying to catch up. Aaron, thanks for the replies. No problems. Trying to catch up with the chat. Everyone's been talking about all sorts of stuff. 4-bay dipole. Collinear. Yes, that those diamonds are collinear antennas. So Craig, Innov is good but not made for our VHF UHF band, so buy with caution. before you buy any antenna, make sure that it's within the band plans of what you've got in your country, or build your own.
Hollywood dropped an interesting comment, Hayden, down there at the bottom.
Rototiller antenna for when you need both vertical and horizontal polarization. Rototiller.
I don't know if he's trolling us or it's a thing.
Well, I'm going to look it up. Never heard of it. Yeah, I think he's trolling us. Oh, okay. Yes. No, he's not trolling us.
He's a very serious man. Hollywood's good people.
Oh, here we go. We found another GeoCities website.
Oh, Lord.
That's what I was going to say earlier when we were talking about circular polarized antennas on repeaters. They use circular polarized antennas in the broadcast industry, and it's because of radios in cars. Because what's the number one radio listener? It's people in vehicles, right? Or at least I'm assuming it still is. So that's why they use circular polarization.
Dental offices.
And also for people too that, yes, so someone will have set up their radio in the dental office, and the little whip, they'll pull it out, they'll put it sideways, they'll put it upside down, they'll put it through the wall, they'll put it, trail the wire down the thing, whatever works, who knows. So a circular polarized antenna is a good compromise between the two polarizations. So
it's an awesome looking website.
Oh,
this is Web 1.5.
There's some serious antennas. Too bad we can't look at them.
Right.
Can you plus that up some, son?
It's probably going to go mobile on me. Sorry, mobile. Oh, no, there we go.
Oh, my God. I don't even...
There's some serious looking antennas. You've seen you know where Mount Wilson is, don't you? Surely you know where Mount Wilson is.
No.
It's in Los Angeles. It's like the biggest.
Oh, that Mount Wilson. Sure.
Biggest broadcast. Hold on, let me find some photos. It's like the most. There we go. It's like the biggest amount of broadcast antennas in the planet. There's just so many towers on the top.
Oh, wow. Imagine if you walk through there, you could heat your Hot Pocket without even having to put it in a microwave.
Can you imagine trying to put a any sort of receiver on this site? It'd just be impossible.
I think you should try it.
Hey?
I think you should try it.
I should, but I don't live in Los Angeles. I think there is an amateur radio repeater on that mountain. So it'd be interesting to have a chat to whoever put that up and ask them what kind of issues they had in trying to do that. Yeah.
Darren posted something there. Hayden.
Who, sorry?
Darren Archer about the UHF array.
Oh.
Marked down. It's on sale.
Is that list price or is that discount price? I wonder.
More importantly, is that Aussie dollars or US dollars?
No, that'd be Aussie dollars. So it'd be slightly cheaper for you guys.
Oh, yay.
Michael, and the FCC allow extra transmit power to compensate for the circular polarization loss. Nice. Allocated Brain was saying, I got a video of our FM install. I'm not even going to put Jason's comment up. What is, the intermod there? It must be
the intermod there.
Oh, okay. So Kim's only 20 miles away from Mount Wilson.
So what is your noise floor? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you get anything from there? Because 20 miles is not that far away. I guess you probably are far enough away, but that's pretty interesting. But we have a broadcast site not that far away from here. It's less than 20 miles, but it doesn't have that many services on it. So, we kind of this stream was sort of all about antenna. Ham radio nonsense, right? Ham radio nonsense.
Right.
So, anyway, very good. I don't know if there's any other questions in the chat or whether you guys want to finish up on something. What's coming up on so Cars in development of a new antenna?
Yes.
Yep.
Tell us more about it, or can you not say anything about
it? Strictly confidential at this point. We're under NDA.
Yeah. Are you?
Can't speak about it on other channels.
Who signed that? Is that an ape issue?
Ape will yell at us if we do.
He doesn't sign anything. No, we already mentioned it. We're making a higher power version of the Poseidon, and it's going to be called the Kronos.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And then, of course, there's all these rumors about the 2-meter Moxon antenna.
Theoretically, or the Chucky.
How long has he been working on that thing, and is he going to commercially sell it? Because that's been in development for a while.
He's just getting lazy, this influenza nonsense.
I mean, he's been milking that for what, 3 weeks now?
At least.
Aaron says he knows all about new antennas, but he's no closer to the perfect ham shack.
It's a journey. It's a journey, not a destination.
It's a never-ending journey.
Yeah, there's always something you're going to want to tweak or upgrade or change out, and one antenna begets another antenna begets another antenna.
It never ends. It never ends, does it?
Well, Don. Okay. So Don, this is hilarious. Don, has moved from where he was, apparently out in the hinterlands there in Texas somewhere. And Don told me the other day he just bought an 8-port Antenna Genius. That is
nice.
Epic. And he probably is going to hook up 8 different antennas on that thing. So it's never done.
No, he's going to hook it backwards. 8 different radios on one antenna.
Could be. Who knows? It's Don. It very well might be.
Craig says, can you explain collinear and any HF antennas? Well, we kind of went through HF antennas at the start of the stream, sort of, the ones you can buy and kind of build. Collinear antennas are a series of elements that are stacked together, and the more elements that you have, the higher the gain. But there are some compromises with that. I showed some of those. That's essentially what these are, these diamonds. They are essentially just collinear antennas. So if you open these up, I don't know if you've ever seen inside one of these. I don't have one to open up that I could show on a video. I should do that sometime. But if you open these up, they're just a series of copper elements with coils. And the coil just basically isolates each element from each other. And then you stack them one on top of the other for extra gain. And that's how they work. So some of them, the X200s and the longer ones are 2-piece, so you actually have to screw them together. And they're pretty interesting. And they've got like little capacitors in there for matching. The capacitors in the diamonds are underrated for power, so if you jam a lot of power up them, you will burn them out. Even though it says 200 watts, that's not 200 watts FM continuous all the time. So you have to be careful with that.
So this is good for you to talk to the repeater, not for you to be the repeater.
Yeah.
So you can use these for repeater antennas, and I am ashamed to say that one of these is running on our repeater antenna, and the only reason it's running at a repeater is because it's been there for the last 10 years. We made some modifications to it so that it would last, and it's been up there 10 years, and it's still going good.
Nice.
Which is surprising.
Leave it alone. Yeah, leave it alone.
Leave it alone. So, but I wouldn't put one up because they are, they're not very, they're about, I don't know, what's 20 millimeters in inches? Like
4.
No, that's too big,
5.
Isn't it?
20 millimeters?
That's too big. No.
I don't know. It's mathing on stream, man.
I'm just trying to help you. It's less than an inch, 0.7 of an inch.
Okay.
So say 1 inch. 1 inch is, I think, 25. Yeah. So they're about 1 inch. So the problem is that when they load up with ice and you get snow on them and the wind blows, it'll just snap them clean off. So they're not super durable. No, that's right. That's right. But But they're good for home because unless you live in a place like T.O. lives where you get ice and snow all the time and lots of wind, they'll be fine.
Not anymore. I don't stay here in the winters.
This is a good. Yes, and I didn't mention this. I missed this out, but it's good that you brought this up. Hollywood, when you put a few stacked antennas on top of another, you end up with a pattern that squishes it out towards the horizon. So yeah, it's everything's a compromise. When you get gain in an antenna, it's got to go somewhere. And usually what it does is it pushes it out further and further towards the horizon, which may or may not work in your favor. If you're up on a really high mountain, you might want to work the horizon, but you won't be able to work anyone down in the valleys very well. They won't be able to hear you very well because all the RF shoots straight over the top of them. If you want to work satellites, you don't really want to work out to the horizon. You want to work up into the sky. So, hope that makes sense. You boys look bored. So we probably should end the stream.
It's your show. I'm listening to the awesome nuggets coming out of your mouth there, buddy. You're smarter than we are with that accent. I mean,
At least it's.
One thing I would ask is something a lot of new hams don't think about, and I certainly didn't know, and still have a lot to learn, is how to mount the damn things the right way. There's not a lot of information about what hardware you need to get to mount a specific kind of antenna, or just to understand it. I have the 2-meter 440 J-pole from KB9 VBR, and he actually mentioned he just uses he's using hose clamps, Mike. So I mean, I'm like, okay, well that works. That's cheap.
It's fun. It's funny how over time you learn what to use and what hardware to use and what not to use. Like for instance, hose clamps. If you were to say hose clamps,
Jubilee clips.
No. We call them hose clamps. That's one thing that we do agree.
Smart.
Just those British. Okay.
If you go out and buy a hose clamp, what hose clamp do you buy? Because if you just buy a normal hose clamp, it might rust. So you need a stainless steel hose clamp because a stainless steel hose clamp won't rust. So if you have, and it's the same too with mounting hardware with the antennas and brackets. If you used galvanized brackets, that's not going to rust. But if you use the cheaper, the cheaper steel, it's going to rust.
Mm-hmm.
If you ding it, so if you're using your shifter or your ratchet to do up the bolts and you ding it, it's going to rust. So you kind of need to, think about that too. So I could see what you mean. That's a whole stream in itself is what hardware you use.
It seemed like the next logical evolution of the antennas is how the hell do you mount this antenna, right? Because if you have some investment in an antenna, like you go crazy and spend $6,500 on a collinear, whatever that thing was, death ray, I don't want to dork it up trying to mount it, and part of the thing, and Hayden mentioned this, is you have the weather considerations too. When he was talking about snow and ice, and a lot of antennas, they'll give you a wind load on it too. So the mast comes into play. You're not going to mount a copper J-pole on a DX Commander mast, not extended very far. It's way too heavy for it. So all that kind of stuff comes into play, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. It's harder than buying the antenna. You got the antenna, but you got to get coax to it, which has weight. You need to have it mounted where it's probably not going to blow over short of a tornado. It's just, like you said, it could be a whole nother show almost.
I'm trying to find an example. Here we go. This might be, yes, this will be a good example if I can get the image to load properly. There we go. I see this a lot. With antenna mounting, what's the issue with that mounting?
It's going to rotate.
No. Have a look
It is
at
going to talk to your
polarization
repeater.
Yeah.
Have a look at
SSB.
See if anyone in the chat knows what the problem is with this antenna.
It's also not connected to anything. It's just
right.
In the air.
There is that, but that's not what I'm trying to say.
We've already identified 3 problems. You're very demanding. It's like being on a stream with
Well, it's
8
not the
or
problem
something.
that there we go. Colin's got it.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
It's a vertically mounted Yagi antenna with a metal pole straight through the middle of it. What's that going to do? It's going to completely detune your antenna.
And this is their picture of how they want to sell their antenna?
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's just it took me a while to actually find this. So it's good that it took me a while to find it. But if this antenna was mounted horizontally, it doesn't matter if the mast runs through the middle because of the metal mast runs through the middle because you don't get the interaction between the elements and the mast from vertical to horizontal is so minute that it doesn't matter. So that's why when you have when you're mounting your antenna, if I can find the other photo, they have these, so they step it out to the side like that.
The arm, yeah.
To get away from the mast. Or the other alternative is that they'll mount it from behind the reflector, because the reflector, if you mount it behind the reflector, if I can find a photo of that, then that's not going to be a problem. So yeah, I see what you mean, Jim. There's all these sort of unwritten things that people don't really understand. Or may not
that picture,
understand.
I looked at that picture and missed that whole part. And it's completely obvious now that you say it, but I'm like, I don't know.
Well, don't worry. I completely missed that it had no coax connected to it either. So that's also going to be a problem.
But so that's what I'm saying is like, you spend $200, $300, $400 buying your sexy hamtenna, whichever one it is. And then you get it in the box and you're all excited and you realize you don't have the 17 different pieces to mount it to whatever mast you have properly, or you realize that, wow, 3 pounds at the end of a 25-foot piece of chain link top rail is pretty damn heavy, and this may not be stout enough to hold this thing. This is a whole ton of mechanical issues more than anything else. Not really radio, but
yeah, Mike's right. If you and HF antenna. I mean, for mounting an HF dipole or something, a metal mast will be fine as long as you insulate the dipole center from the mast and you bring the elements out away from the mast. It'll work fine. But I mean, a lot of people use fiberglass poles now because it's just easier and lighter. So
right.
But if you were to mount it at home, you'd probably do that. All right, lads. Well, thanks for the nonsense discussion on antennas.
Oh yeah.
And the good thing, though, this is. So did I tell you? Did you watch last week's stream, Jim?
I did.
Yeah. So we've upgraded. I finally upgraded to StreamYard HD now. Because I contacted StreamYard support and they said, because I kept saying that we get dropouts at the end of streams all the time.
Right.
Whenever we tried to
everybody was complaining about that last week.
Yeah. So every time Tio and I try to tell something about what happened when we went to Wendy's in Dayton. And I'm not going to say it this time. I'm going to let Tio say it because I don't think it must be me. It must be my internet connection.
You think it won't cut us off? Yeah. So we were right out at the car B&B, the car B and used to be the bed and breakfast that was not a bed and breakfast and had no place to stay. And then we decided to go to dinner, and it was late. We've been on the road all day, and all kinds of because I picked you up in Chicago 5 or 6 hours earlier. Jim, you drove from Alabama to get up there, right. And we're like, just food, man, whatever. So Wendy's was the choice. We went to Wendy's and we got those
Hayden's choice.
Those fries. What do they have? The ghost pepper fries. Those were good.
And it was unbelievable because